This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
I love boundaries. Boundaries in life, boundaries in recipes. And so it felt really easy to just kind of dig into what worked. And if a recipe wasn't working, in the development process, I was like, okay, it doesn't belong. Like if I'm struggling to get this right, clearly it doesn't belong. Like it has to kind of be great.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rodbard. It was so much fun having Alexis deBoschnek into the studio. We talk about her terrific new book, Nights and Weekends, which details her cooking philosophy based in upstate New York. Alexis is one of my favorite writers and creators online, and we get into what her life is like upstate.
Also on the show, I speak with Miyoko Schinner, the trailblazing plant-based chef, cookbook author, and founder of the vegan cheese brand Miyoko's Creamery. Her 7th cookbook, The Vegan Creamery, shares everything you need to make milk, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, and more without dairy. We talk about developing the recipes and also some big shifts in the plant-based eating world.
Alexis deBoschnek, welcome. This is Taste. Great to see you again.
Great to be here again.
I just love following your career. You were in our studio in 2022.
I know, so much has changed since then.
So much has changed. I remember that conversation. We were talking about some of the farming upstate that you're doing, and you're still there.
Still there and like kind of digging in more to it.
Yeah.
It's really, I feel like it's almost been 5 years living there. We live in my childhood home, moved back in 2020. And it's, it really feels, I'm like, this is home. This is where we're supposed to be.
It wasn't like a pandemic thing. I mean, you're there for good.
Well, it initially was a pandemic
Sure, exactly.
thing, and then has become like, this is the place.
I live in the lower Hudson Valley, and it's a little different, though I have farms 5 minutes from my house, and I just think the agriculture in the Hudson Valley in general is terrific. You live further upstate, and this new book is kind of an evolution of your style. We'll talk about that.
Totally.
But I do want to know, and please, hit me to the spots. Where are you going out to dine in the Hudson Valley when you're out?
So I feel, I live in Delaware County, which is like Western Catskills. So I'm not going out to eat in the Hudson Valley that often. I'm like going to Stissing House for special occasions because it is the best. It's worth the hype.
Truly.
I'm going to Ollie's.
Kingston, shout.
I'm stopping at the places, but I'm mostly eating in Delaware County. We have like some amazing restaurants, Brushland, which so many people know. Hollow, there's a place called Solinsky's, which makes like incredible, cured meat and like the best hot dogs you've ever had. There's some really amazing local spots. And obviously, I'm cooking most of the time.
Definitely. And that's so important to know with the books that you create and your online video content. You are cooking out of necessity because you don't live by restaurants.
Exactly.
You're not trying to balance the two. It's like truly home cooking is part of your lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm like, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, every restaurant is closed. You have to be cooking.
Yeah, you have.
And I really enjoy it too, but that's it's out of necessity.
And I love the places you recommended. They're not like tucked into a luxury hotel because right now there's this kind of narrative happening And it's fair because there's beautiful projects opening, but like a lot of people who just read the media think that upstate is all about the luxury hotels.
Totally. I'm like, people live there. Like, we
Yes.
live there. And I mean, I think that's what makes Delaware County particularly special. You know, it's a little more removed. It's harder to get to. And people are not they're not commuting every day because, you know, it's 3 hours away. You can't.
Yeah.
And so people have really, you know, created this kind of amazing community. I mean, I think that's the whole Hudson Valley, you know, Catskills. Like, there's it runs really deep.
Yeah,
people are really happy
and
to
it's
be
important
there.
to know the Catskills is where you live, which is
Yes.
a little different than, like, say, Hudson, which
Totally
is a
different.
energy than Kingston, than Rhinebeck.
Yep.
All these, I could just name all the towns.
Yeah,
if I
all the
wanted.
things.
But it's an incredible place, and just if you're from out of town and you're thinking about traveling this fall, I think that there's no better place.
That's the time.
It's definitely the time. I mean, I love summer, but the fall is really when
The fall
things
is
happen.
spectacular. I mean, we have we have a local farmers market on Wednesday, and it does feel like you can't find parking in town.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, are we in Brooklyn? Like, it's kind of crazy to see how that has grown and changed over the years. But it's amazing, you know, all these local farms are getting support.
They're getting support. Well, you write really candidly in your introduction, and I want to talk about this because I think it's important, and you admit this, that your first book, you were maybe cooking in a way that was you, of course, but it was maybe you were offering recipes that had a strong point of view, but maybe were a little more difficult and advanced.
Totally.
Maybe were less practical. And for this new book, it was like a rubber hits a road moment. You were like, I need to make a book that people actually cook from. This is my read from your intro. I want to talk about it, though.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if I can be very vulnerable in this moment, you know, I think, you know, first books for so many people, it's like, is this the only book I'll ever write? You know, I want to get some of these like big ideas in here. But most people are not making like salt-cured egg yolks for a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
You know, and I think my life, when I started working on this, I was single. I lived in Los Angeles. I was freelance. Like, I had all the time in the world. I was like, no problem. I can do it. Everything's great. And then by the time the second book came around, you know, my first book didn't do particularly well, which is, you know, hard to say. But I think part of that, like, it wasn't very accessible. And, you know, I had a few different ideas for different books for book two. You know, my agent was like, not quite right. Mm-hmm. Keep going. And then it was like February of 22,
Yeah,
3, something.
Yeah.
And my mom she fell off a horse and ended up having like a brain bleed.
Oh, man.
And was in the hospital for a while. And so we had kind of gone from like, you know, all cohabitating and doing our own thing to myself and my husband like really having to be in control of the farm. And it was this really pivotal moment of, you know, gone were the days when I could be doing these really long, tedious recipes.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, obviously food is the most important thing to me, but I was like, okay, I want to eat delicious food. I have no time. Like, I am stressed. And, you know, around this time too, my friends are starting to have kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people are getting promotions, work, you know, life is just like lifing. And it was kind of this light bulb moment of like, okay, my life has changed. Everyone around me, their life has changed. And I think I need to do something that feels more accessible for all of them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how's your mom doing?
Oh, sorry. That's a very important thing.
Yeah.
She's totally fine now.
Great.
Which is amazing. But, you know, a lot of these recipes I started developing while still taking care of her.
Yeah.
And, you know, so delivering on the promise that they had to be easy and approachable and come together quickly. You know, I really ensured that happened because of this kind of really hard moment in my life.
It must have been a hard moment, and you must have really obviously prioritized the important things. And when you're looking at your pantry and looking at what produce you have and your mom's in the hospital, what are you reaching for? What are you cooking?
Oh my God. I mean, you know, easy. I'm like, okay, how can we doctor up this pasta? You know, one of my favorite recipes, and I've been making it for years, is like pasta with wilted greens. It's like you have that sad box of greens in the fridge and you're like, what do I do with this? And so you're going to make some brown butter, add a ton of garlic and pepper flakes and maybe like whatever nut you have in the fridge. And then that entire box of greens and toss it together with some parm and like, there's dinner.
Yeah. I mean, the book is filled with these recipes that blend your deep creativity and knowledge of food, but with that practicality. I have a couple recipe questions.
Sure.
But take us to the farm. What's going on these days? I mean, let's catch us up on your life, your day-to-day work on the farm.
Well, the farm has grown. My husband and I started raising pastured poultry last summer. We did 300 chickens.
Wow. As a commercial endeavor.
Yeah, as a commercial endeavor, selling it. We were just selling it to like friends, family, and then this year we did 900. We've done 900 chickens so far. I think we're going to have to do more because we're like almost selling out. Wow. We just started shipping. So like if you live in the Northeast, you can get our chicken to your door.
That's amazing. What's it called?
It's called Uplands. Yeah. And, it's pasture-raised chicken, organic fed, air chilled. And it's amazing. We're at the farmer's market now and people are coming up to us and they're like, this is the best chicken I've ever had. And it's really, living in a place with all these farms around is incredible. But then getting to do it ourselves is like taking it to a whole other level.
Let's talk about chicken. I love this segue. So you're at the farmer's market. Many of our listeners know this feeling. You go there and you buy this like icy block of chicken.
Yep.
And we know the promise is it's going to be incredible. But then we get home, we maybe put it in the freezer and then we're thinking, I'm like projecting. I have a couple of these in my freezer. What are we doing?
Okay, I think with whatever cut of chicken you have, whether that's a whole chicken, chicken wings, thigh, like whatever, you should be dry brining it for at least a day, up to 3 days. Like that is going to take your chicken from like good to great. It's, the salt draws out the moisture, so you get this like really crispy skin and the meat becomes more tender. And, you can, after dry brining it, you can put any kind of seasoning or glaze or sauce, whatever you want on it. But the chicken is just going to be so much more flavorful.
Oh my gosh. I like to think, and disagree if you may, but like I like to think of like 1 or 2% by weight for the dry brine.
Totally.
Yeah. So which is a lot. If you weigh it out, it's like way more salt, kosher salt. Usually we're thinking diamond.
Always diamond.
Yeah, and like it's a lot of salt, but it's necessary.
It's so necessary, and it really makes a difference. I've taught some cooking classes, and people are always like horrified when they see the amount of salt, and I'm like, no, guys, this is how food tastes good. If you go to a restaurant, that's what's happening.
No, absolutely, great point. You have to like do those steps ahead of time, and you have to actually use ingredients.
No, it's just building flavor.
Yeah. All right, so like book 2s are tricky, right? And book 3s are tricky too. And like when you're thinking about other projects, as you evolve your recipe development, you're kind of like maybe put into a corner, but you're not though, because like you obviously have thought about new ideas with this book. How do you dig for that inspiration when you're looking at 110 recipes in this book? Big number.
Yeah,
what's it like for you?
110. In retrospect, I was like, wow, this is so many recipes.
I'd never do it. I'm like 75.
I'm like, and I still have more ideas, which is
sure.
good. I mean, the book is broken out into 2 sections: nights, which is like easy weeknight dinners. That's like 2/3 of the book, and weekends, stuff you'd make on the weekends when you have a little more time. And so many of the things are, what I have in my pantry or what's in season. I tried to develop recipes that you could make year round.
Yeah.
Using ingredients like frozen peas or something. That's an easy way to add like some pop of freshness without, you're not going to be like shelling peas for hours.
And frozen peas are amazing.
We love frozen peas.
Yeah, we love them.
But yeah, I think, asking friends, also being like, what do you cook? Like when you have 15 minutes, like what do you go to? Or what are the ingredients you always have in your pantry? And between that, it was kind of like an endless well of ideas. It was really, really fun to develop this book. Also because there were such strict parameters. I love boundaries. Boundaries in life, boundaries in recipes. Yeah. And so it felt really easy to just kind of dig into what worked. And if a recipe wasn't working, in the development process, I was like, okay, it doesn't belong. Like if I'm struggling to get this right, clearly it doesn't belong. Like it has to kind of be great from the jump.
I'm in the process of working on a taste project with Zola Gregory, a terrific columnist, and I was testing some recipes last night. In fact, so it's on the brain for me. It is fucking hard. Like
it's so hard.
Like, Zola's writing the recipes and I'm testing, but like there's like subtle changes for everything, and some things don't work, and most of them do. Props to Zola, but like. Damn, it is so much work.
It's so much work. I mean, I was really crazy with this book. Like, once I got it to a good place, I tested it 3 times and then sent it to a cross-tester.
Yes.
And then, also did it on the photo shoot. And I was like, before it goes in this book, like, it has to. The proportions have to be right. Like, it has to work. I think I feel really proud of myself for this, her one note, she was like, well, I don't like chorizo. And I was like, well, you could use whatever sausage you want.
Yeah.
Like, if that's fine. That's an easy.
Shame on not liking chorizo. I don't know who you're talking to. I'm not going to shame that person. But
I know.
Nothing's better. And Mexican chorizo or Spanish chorizo.
Agreed. And honestly, it's a great recipe. You do it with like on a sheet pan with peaches, and then you make this like really quick vinaigrette that you toss with the peaches and cucumbers and corn and serve the chorizo on the side. It's
beautiful.
It's so good and it's so easy.
Man, peaches have been good this year too.
They've been right.
I don't know if it was a wet spring, but like the Hudson Valley peaches, they're not always hitting, but this year they're hitting.
So juicy.
They're really
Incredible.
good. Recently in the show, we took a deep dive into the amazing world of Dijon mustard with help from our friends at My. My brings over 270 years of French craftsmanship to every jar of premium Dijon mustard. Since 1747, My has been perfecting the art of flavor, transforming everything from simple sandwiches to gourmet meals. Look for the Oh My, It's a Great Talk About Dijon Mustard episode in the This Is Taste podcast feed.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Talk about the photo shoot. Rebecca Pepler is your food stylist
Yes.
credited in the book. I
Yes.
didn't ask you off mic about this, but what was that? Was she up shooting with you the whole time?
Oh, Rebecca's one of my best friends. I've known her for almost 15 years now, and she styled my first book. She is incredible, and she was on her book tour and literally carved out 2 weeks in the book tour so she could come style the book.
Oh.
I'm like, if that is not like love, I don't know what is. Like, she's incredible. The whole team. Rebecca Bartoszewski did the prop styling. Yeah. Christian Harder, he's one of my best friends there, and this was his first cookbook. I had to fight to get him there, and so many people have been like, these photos are amazing. This feels different than like other books, and I'm like, yeah, that was the plan.
It's a really, really well shot book. Like the whole team is like super pro. It's a very nice book. Really, really.
And it was so. I love the photo shoots. It's so fun.
They really are fun, and especially when you're working with buddies.
Totally. And we shot in my house.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. Where else would you go?
Where else would you shoot? But it really does have the prop styling feels natural, and
totally.
Credit to you. Slight pivot in the conversation. You're like OG BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
Like what an amazing era to be creating recipes online. If you look at the vertical video surge that we're in the middle of and the social video surge, like a lot of it you can trace back to the work you did at BuzzFeed. Very, very, very important publication, and credit to everyone who was there. You were there. What do you think about right now, this era of social video, given your deep history?
It's kind of, I think we're in an overwhelming time with social video. Anyone can shoot. People have gotten really good. I see these, I've been doing this for years, and I see these people who are just incredible with their cameras and lighting and what they're doing. I think it's made cooking more accessible. I see younger people more into, getting more into cooking. It feels like it's kind of made it more like democratic in a way. And as someone, creating content, it's really hard because you're kind of having to constantly feed the beast. I talk about this. I was talking with Justine yesterday.
Yeah, Doran.
And I was, who's amazing and so talented. And I was like, when does it stop? Like, you can't stop. I'm banking content weeks in advance, in preparation for this book tour. And I'm like, but when I come back, then I have to keep going. It's a hard cycle to be on. And I'm seeing, these people who are younger and have so much energy to do it. And I'm kind of like, I don't know where I fit in this.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm like, I don't, I feel like there used to be a roadmap in food media, and all these publications are, their budgets are being cut or they're shuttering completely. And the roadmap is gone. And if you're creating content, it's like, what does that lead to? Like a TV show? Like who's watching those shows? You know, like what are the next steps?
Yeah, well, it's probably not a TV show.
Yeah, it's probably
the
not.
market for stand and stir TV shows is like zero now. It's all competition. You guys need to change that if you're listening, because I think there is a demand for those shows, but that's a separate topic.
Yeah.
But I think Feeding the Beast is a really interesting idea with you. I want to tap into that because it is a constant struggle with creators to stay genuine, keep the quality high, and then do all the partnerships work too, because in a good case scenario, you're being presented deals, but you have to also like take those deals and scrutinize them because it is your brand. I mean, how do you feel about that negotiation? I
mean, I have a really great team who I feel really lucky to work with. But it feels important personally, and like no judgment for whatever people are doing. But I'm like, I want to work with people with brands that I actually use and actually like, which also means saying no to things, which financially maybe not the best choice, but it's important to me that people can be like, okay, this is tried and true and tested, and like she stands behind it. But it's I don't know. this feels unsustainable. What's the next step?
Yeah,
I'm like a Substack.
I love it.
I love it. I'm obsessed. It's the best. I've been on it for 3.5 years, and the community that's happening there is incredible. I feel like that's kind of the next place for all of us.
I saw a Substack note recently that was really resonated. It was really, really great. It was basically like, to the extent, I don't know the quote, but it was like, Substack is here for the blog that failed in 2010.
100%.
Because it's truly that.
100%.
Or even earlier, I started blogging in like 2000, and like, it's the same ethic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And the people, who are I think I've subscribed to like 60 newsletters, which is out of control. But, it's exciting to get a look into what people are doing and cooking and, or beyond food.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole world out there.
They have like 20 tabs at the top of the app. I love the app. I think it's terrific.
I love the app. I'm like on Substack more than Instagram these days.
I love that. I love to hear that. I think that we're like tip of the spear of this thing.
Totally.
And I think more people will realize it's blogging and it's an app and it's a feed. It's not necessarily getting an inbox notification. You can turn those off even and just use the app. And I'm just so impressed with the quality of the posts. Like it's really, really, really good.
Me too.
And this is definitely the future of food media.
Okay, sorry. Speaking of Substack, I saw you posted a note the other day about this place, Cafe Yen.
Oh, yeah.
And my best friend lives in Warwick, and I was like, hey, have you heard of this place? And she was like, no. I was like, you gotta go.
Oh, my God. Wow, let's talk about Cafe Yen.
I mean, it looks, haven't been, but I saw you posted this, and I was like, okay, Matt knows what he's talking about with food recommendations, and it looks incredible.
It's an amazing place, and I'll just give it its flowers. It's in Goshen, which is really close to Legoland.
Yes.
So if you have kids and you're having to hike up to Legoland, you got to stop by Cafe Yen. It's a young guy named Grady runs it. Really talented pastry chef and chef in general. The lamination there is excellent. So he's doing croissants and pain au chocolat, but he's also doing incredible cookies. And then he does his own focaccia and he's doing this chicken sandwich that is like all world.
Amazing.
Because I think when you have that scale, it's smaller.
Yeah,
It's not like the volume that you'd have in Brooklyn. Totally. And he's really, really cares about those details. And it's really laid back. So yeah, your friend in Warwick, it's just 20-minute drive away. You got to go there.
You got to go.
I love that.
This is the joy of Substack Notes.
Let's talk about the chicken business, though. I want to go back to that.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, are you like, is this like, can you make money with like 1,000 chickens a year?
We're not like getting a salary now. So we've done 900 chickens. I think we have to do like, if we did 4,000, I think we could be making like a salary.
Yeah.
A small salary, but something. And, the idea is to scale and the idea is to get more animals. We might do pigs next year too.
Yeah.
It's obviously having people love what we're doing makes it easier to do. And, I still want to be like, we have to be able to travel. We need to like have time off. So whatever animals we do, like there has to be an end date. It can't go too long. But, the lifespan of a chicken, not that long.
Yeah,
People are
definitely.
pretty shocked about it.
No, it's definitely a short lifespan, and then butchering is not as involved as like larger animals.
Totally. And we're bringing it to a processor. So it's all like, USDA certified.
Of course.
And we're doing, a lot of small farms process on the farm, and they only do whole birds. And I was like, as a cook, we need parts.
Yeah.
And so we have, thighs, breasts, wings, liver, all the parts.
Oh, amazing. And do you have a staff, or is it just the two of you?
It's just the two of us.
That's so much work.
It's so much
You're like
work.
low key about this.
I mean, yeah, we're doing the chickens. We have 14 Icelandic horses. We're running this like horse business.
What, really?
Yeah, it's my mom started it, and we've
Breeding?
taken it over. We board horses. We have trainers come in and do these like weekend clinics. I just cooked for 18 people this weekend. For it's kind of crazy.
Love that. Do you ride yourself?
No, I'm not even into the horses. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, maybe this is why the content is unsustainable. I'm trying to show more about like the farm life, and people are really into it. They're like, wait, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, the chores every day.
I mean, it's chores.
It's
like
the chores.
Capital C chores.
Yeah, and I'm like, the animals have to eat before we do. So
I know. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I really want to check in with you in like a year or so and hear about this business, because I think cookbooks aside, it's really fascinating as you're growing it to see where it goes.
Totally. Yeah, I think more chickens this year, and next year we'll see what happens.
Very exciting for you, Alexis. This is very, very cool.
Thank you.
A couple recipe questions.
Sure.
That really jumped out. This everything bagel panzanella, super fun. Hadn't seen that. Really, really original. How did you come across it?
It feels like a deconstructed like bagel.
Yeah.
Like all the things on a bagel. I had a whole jar of everything bagel seasoning, which feels kind of like outdated in a way.
Totally.
But it's really good. And I was like, oh, it'd be fun to just use this in a panzanella. Let's like doctor it up.
Yeah, it's a really good idea, and especially for like late summer, early fall. You get those tomatoes still happening. You might not want to do a tomato salad. You need a little something else.
Totally.
Another clever idea, the au poivre, but with pork.
Yes.
Now, pork au poivre, au poivre is also like kind of a detailed, kind of fussy sauce, but you're positioning it as something you can do during the weeknights. And then with pork,
totally
better pricing.
Totally.
Pork is like really, really affordable.
Totally. Yeah. And so, I think that's it's so delicious, first of all.
Yeah, no,
but
totally.
It's really, it's really easy because you're just searing the pork chops, just to get them brown, and you're finishing it in the oven. So, and that whole thing takes, 10, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Depending on how thick your chops are. And then while that's in the oven, you're making the sauce. And it comes together really quickly.
What's the sauce? Like, take us through a little bit.
It's like, it's shallots, cream, a splash. I think I'm using like a splash of like vinegar instead of, no flambeing at home.
Yeah.
It's really simple, but really, really flavorful.
Yeah, I love it. What would you pair that with for a meal, for a weeknight meal?
You could, listen, you could just boil some potatoes. You want something, or like even a piece of bread. You want something to like soften up that sauce, and a salad. I'm like, keep it simple.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think with a lot of these recipes, I was like, you can just serve it with rice. It doesn't have to be crazy. If you have a rice cooker, like, it's doing the job for you.
I think you're right. I think with home cooking, and especially weeknight cooking, sometimes we have to live with the fact that we're having steak au poivre and maybe some potatoes. And that's dinner. Now, it's maybe not the macros you want, but like you've got other meals in the day, and you're talking about just getting a dinner on the table.
Yeah, I just think most of us, like, we don't have the bandwidth to be doing like 3 separate recipes every night. Or even like, are we going to roast these asparagus for 40 minutes or whatever? It's just adding more things. I was just trying to be smart about timing,
Yeah, I love
utility.
it. The point of view is really strong. I want to talk about desserts, but I'm going to just like flip it to you. Is there a single dessert recipe in the book that you feel is like a real accomplishment?
Pavlova.
Yeah.
It's my favorite dessert. And this one is spectacular. There's lemon curd, there's whipped cream, any fruit you want. It's like, it's actually amazing when you leave it in the fridge and it kind of like melds together. And it's like eating a cloud. It's so good.
I love that. And is that a week?
No, that's definitely a weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't put any dessert in the weeknight recipe. It's just weeknight recipes because dinner recipes. Because I'm like, you're going to eat ice cream. You're going to eat a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
No one is making dessert on a Tuesday.
Agree fully. That's like the real talk. And you just have to like go into cooking during the week with that mindset that
Totally.
you can't accomplish. And even if you're being fed the social video content of these elaborate meals.
Most people aren't doing that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm also, you know, I think with the type of content I share, you know, I'm like, I think I'd be more successful if I was like doing the viral stuff. But I'm like, I just want to show what I'm actually eating.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's not that fussy.
What's tour looking like for you?
New York, some upstate stuff, of course,
Yeah.
Chicago, LA.
Love that.
And I think we're capping it at that, which feels it's
I
like
think
2 months of stuff. And that feels like plenty.
What are you doing upstate?
Oh, man, there's some events in Hudson. There's something in the Finger Lakes. There's a few Catskills, something in Kingston. It's like, you know, a combination between like dinner, classes, signings.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So classes. When you do a class, what's an Alexis class like?
Oh, man. I mean, it depends on, you know, how many people. I've done virtual classes. I've done in person.
Yeah.
I like, you know, catered a bachelorette party where it was like class/dinner. It was kind of crazy.
Was it fun?
It was so fun. I mean, I think the reality with a class is most people are there to like have a glass of wine and like hang out with their friends and maybe learn a few things. But, you know, something like a pie, for instance, I'll have the dough already made.
Yeah.
And then like, let's go through how you properly roll it out. Let's show you how to tuck it under and then crimp it. You know, I feel like even like little light bulb moments like that really can change someone's cooking journey.
I agree fully. I think it's a really nice gift to give someone
Totally.
a class for like a bachelorette party or a
Totally.
wedding present.
Agreed.
I think that's really smart, and I bet you're a great instructor.
Thank you.
Welcome to Sephora.
I'm looking for a perfume that's not too perfumey.
I got you.
Serum moisturizer or moisturizer serum.
Let's get into layering.
My concealer is making me look worse.
Sounds like the wrong shade. Let's get you matched.
There's only one store that really gets what you're going for. Get beauty from people who get beauty. Only at Sephora.
Hi, Let's get you a basket.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
On This Is Taste, we discuss about the discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire Fast and Furious taste check. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
The best fruit.
Peach.
Okay, take me through your peach. What makes it so good, makes it great?
You need to be standing over the sink. It needs to be so juicy that you have to be like standing over the sink or like a piece of grass. And it's juicy and it's sweet. It's like got to be perfectly in season. There's like only a few weeks to get that perfect peach.
Yeah, we're there right now.
And it's
mid-July.
the moment.
It is. I was at Blooming Hill Farm. You ever go up there?
Yes.
They
Oh
had
my God.
great peaches.
Oof.
So good. The worst vegetable.
Kohlrabi.
Oh, yeah.
Never have gone into it.
Never gotten into it.
Don't want it.
Yeah. Can you even imagine a recipe with it, or do you just...
I imagine there's probably some like slaw, but I'm like, would rather put like Napa cabbage.
Yeah. Definitely agree.
For the
There's great
crunch.
subs for that. What is your typical breakfast?
In the winter, oatmeal. In the summer, granola and yogurt and like whatever fruit we have growing.
Definitely. What's your yogurt situation?
Yogurt situation is usually like just like full fat Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, it's kind of a boring breakfast, but it makes me feel
It's
good.
not. It's a beautiful breakfast. I fully endorse it. The best dessert.
Pavlova.
Yeah, I know. You were going to say that one because we went over it. Yeah. Really, really good. Is there a restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead?
I feel like if I could bring back Uncle Boone's,
Yeah.
that would be great just for a night.
I think that's great. I think Uncle Boone's was so pioneering, and Thai Diner picked up a lot of the recipes.
Totally.
Different vibe, though.
Different vibe. Love Thai Diner, but
Yeah.
Uncle Boone's just for a night for me.
Great call. When you're craving fast food, where are you going?
Okay, I'm never craving fast food.
Okay,
I
fair.
know. I sound like such a brat, but I don't eat it.
Yeah.
I don't eat it.
Not even upstate when you're in a pinch?
Never.
Never?
I mean,
Okay.
I'm like bringing my own food on the airplane. I'm bringing my own food on the road trips. Like,
Yeah.
I just, my husband's like teasing me, but I'm like, it's not for me.
I respect it. You dodged the question effectively just then. Your favorite city outside America to visit for food?
I mean, I feel like Tokyo changed my life.
Yeah.
I mean, and like Paris too is always amazing.
Those are good ones.
Always good.
Yeah.
And I don't know, New York, LA, maybe it's LA.
Yeah. I mean, LA.
I lived there for 7 years, and it's an incredible food city.
What were you living? What part of town?
I lived in East Hollywood, which is now like booming. It's so weird to hear all these restaurants opening there, and I'm like, in East Hollywood?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's a little different when you were there. Wow. Yeah.
So
affordable.
Affordable. It was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Now, no longer.
No longer.
That's why I have to stay in the Catskills.
Yeah, definitely. Gotta get upstate if you're thinking about making that move. I mean, it's a different lifestyle. You're not gonna have like the culture of New York, but it's definitely for a lot of people. Last one, your favorite sandwich?
BLT.
How do you do it?
I want oh, sorry. I was like, what is my perfect sandwich? Yeah. And the bread needs to be like a little soft.
Yeah.
It can't be like too crusty. So much mayo. Truly shocking amount of mayo. Thick tomatoes, salted.
Yeah.
Bacon, very crispy. And like romaine.
Always romaine, yeah.
Some pepper smashed together. Again, maybe you're eating it over the sink.
I did that this weekend just with tomatoes, not with bacon. Yeah, I was over the sink.
Best.
What's your mayonnaise choice?
I'm a Hellman's girl.
Yeah.
Listen, love Duke's, can't get it by me. So I'm like, well, I have one choice.
Hellman's is great. That's my choice as well. I love Hellman's. Alexis, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining this.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Miyoko Schinner, this is Taste. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
It's my delight. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to talk all things plant-based creamery, vegan creamery with you. To start, I'm wondering if you could tell me about one of your kind of early breakthrough aha moments when it comes to making vegan cheese.
Well, that would go back probably 3 or 4 decades. I was living in Japan, playing around with tofu. I was already a vegan, or it had become a vegan back then in the 1980s. And I was trying to figure out, well, how do you make cheese? Cheese is the coagulation of proteins in milk. Tofu is the coagulation of proteins in soy milk, but why are they so different? So I began to really think deep about that. And one of the first cheeses I made was actually fermenting tofu. I'd seen this TV show about these nuns that were doing interesting things, burying tofu in ash and miso and so on. And so I actually took some tofu, I buried it in miso, and about a week later, it had transformed from something that was very tofu and crumbly to something that was smooth like butter and had a very strong, cheesy, fermented flavor. Tofu had undergone some sort of fermentation due to the bacteria in the miso and had become sort of a cheese-like substance. So that was my first sort of aha moment, and it just sort of went from there.
I love that moment, and I think making the connection between like what is cheese, how is it developed, how can you replicate that makes so much sense. I'm curious, like I know you have such a incredible career when it comes to developing these kind of plant-based dairy alternatives. Like once that was your dropping off point, did you see the potential of, wow, I could be making hard cheddar, I could make ice cream, all of these things? Or how did you kind of come to realize the full scale of what was possible with plant-based milk?
Well, I think ice cream was a lot easier. So was mayonnaise, all of that stuff. I started experimenting in the 1980s. It actually culminated in my first cookbook, which was The Now and Zen Epicure, which came out in 1990. It's out of print, so you can't Google it or anything. But in it, I really started exploring what I could do with cashews. So that was sort of my foray into the whole cashew concept. And, I was making creams, I was making mayonnaise using cashews in place of eggs. I was making ice cream out of it. So I was doing that exploration, but really being able to land on a cheddar cheese was something that would take quite a few more years and experimentation.
Yeah, you mentioned cashew. I think that is such a common ingredient that you see in plant-based cheese, at least today. I'm curious if there are any other ingredients that you would nominate as being especially useful in this context.
Okay, well, I have my new favorite, I've moved on from cashews. A lot of the recipes I developed for many years were cashew based, but my new favorite is watermelon seeds. And that sounds really strange. But actually, watermelon seeds come from a type of melon that's grown predominantly for their seeds in places like India and China. And they're actually a very common snack item, like peanuts are here. So they're relatively inexpensive, where they come from. And it is the strangest ingredient because it makes the absolute milkiest milk I have ever had in my life. Of all the plant milks I've had, watermelon seed milk makes a milk that actually coats your tongue just like whole cow's milk does. And it coagulates like dairy milk. I mean, the curds are different slightly, but it's very high in albumin, which is the protein that you find in egg whites as well too. And so it coagulates upon exposure to heat, even without adding anything to it. So you don't have to add resin or anything; just heat it up, and it forms these large curds. And you can actually press the curds especially if you've flavored the curds, to make something that's very cheese-like. And so it is sort of my new favorite uh, plant milk. And I make all sorts of things out of it. I make cheese, I make butter, I make ice cream, all out of watermelon seeds. And there's a whole host of other ingredients that are in my upcoming new book. But I would say watermelon seeds are at the top right now.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I was checking out your new book, The Vegan Creamery, and I was very intrigued by the watermelon seed additions throughout it. How did you land on experimenting with watermelon seeds?
Well, I don't know. Somehow I came across the ingredient. I have so many ingredients, whether I'm at I don't know, Asian grocery store or Middle Eastern store, whatever is interesting, I tend to procure. And somehow watermelon seeds came across my supply chain of interesting ingredients. And I just, played around with it. What can I do with it? Can I turn it into milk? How does it react when it is exposed to heat or frozen? So this is sort of what I do when I come across something new. I just sort of test it across all potential culinary, techniques to see how does it react? How will it perform?
Yeah, I love thinking about that experimentation. When you're recipe developing, are you trying to specifically mimic dairy or eggs, or do you chase a different kind of flavor or texture based on what you think the best expression of the ingredient might be?
I love the way you put that, the best expression for that particular ingredient. I think we are kind of stuck on this idea that whatever we make that's plant-based or vegan has to replicate an animal product, that it has to replace that. And why are we so desperate to do that? Why can't we let plants express themselves the best way they do? And so I'm really excited about, like, how can I capture, like, let's say I want to make a cheese. So I will experiment with different plant milks to see what works, what doesn't work, but I'm not trying to force that plant milk to be exactly like cow's milk cheese. Sheep's milk cheese, goat's milk cheese, they don't try to replicate cow's milk cheese. They all have their individual attributes and characteristics. And so why don't we celebrate those within the realm of plants as well? Why don't we make a cashew milk cheese that expresses the best in cashews, or watermelon seed milk, which performs differently than cashews? You can't make the same cheese with watermelon seeds that you can with cashews or with almonds, etc. So why not let each of them capture best what they do best?
Yeah, I think your point about how animal milk has different expressions within it is such a good reminder, and there is such diversity there. I'm curious, you mentioned that your first cookbook, which was vegan, came out in the 90s. There's been so much development in the vegan food landscape since then. You've been a part of shaping it in many ways. Like, do you feel like consumers and vegan eaters are at a different point now in terms of what they're looking for or what they want to try?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. When I first wrote The Nouns and Epicure in 1990, I think it was one of the first two vegan cookbooks that were really trying to, I don't know, mimic haute cuisine, trying to elevate vegan food from the realm of brown food, lentils and brown rice and steamed vegetables, um, and trying to make it I don't know, more interesting. I developed a lot of my recipes on from reading Mastering the Art of French Cooking by Julia Child. I literally read every recipe and tried to understand what are the techniques behind a bordelaise or a bourguignon or a demi-glace. Like, how do you create those umami flavors? And then I tried to figure out what can I use from plants that can replicate that same sense of satisfaction. I did my best to sort of present those ideas in the Now and Zen Epicure. But today, it's just a totally different world. Whether it's vegan French food or Italian food or whatever, everything exists everywhere. Of course, there is going to be a range in quality between cookbooks and restaurants, but there are so many amazing cookbook authors today, as well as restaurants that are really expressing the best in plant-based cuisine. It is just a totally different world. At the same time, back when I wrote that book, we didn't have a lot of so-called plant-based products. There was no real plant-based industry. So you had to go home and make things yourself. And today, unfortunately, to some degree, the plant-based industry has created sort of a bad reputation where people think that to be vegan, you have to eat a lot of highly processed food, which isn't true. At the same time, on the other side, there's so many beautiful plant-based recipe developers doing beautiful things with vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds, keeping it colorful, full of umami, without having to resort to store-bought products.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting. I don't know if you would agree with me, but it seems to me that maybe in the past, like something that was being billed explicitly as vegan would only be consumed by people who identified that way. And I think today there are a lot of people who are omnivorous but are still interested in a dairy alternative, maybe not all of the time, but at least sometimes.
No, you're absolutely right. When I had my first food company, which was back in the 1990s, I had a so-called alt meat company. I purposely made products specifically for vegans. I wasn't trying to reach anyone besides vegans. I just wanted something that, I wanted to level the playing field. I felt like vegans should also be able to have access to tasty foods. But today it is a very different scenario, especially in the realm of plant milks. Plant milks is where we now have about 15% of market share in the liquid milk category. That has not been replicated in plant milk cheeses or in plant-based meats at all. It's really just been in the milk category. And I think that's because a lot of people are lactose intolerant, or they don't like the flavor of cow's milk. And they want something that's lighter that, that they can still be able to use in cooking, or just, as a refreshing drink to have with cookies or something. About 50% of households today have a plant milk in their refrigerator. That is not the case with plant-based cheese or plant-based meat.
Yeah, I think at least anecdotally, I have, dairy yogurt and dairy cheese in my fridge, but I have oat milk and not, I would never drink just cow's milk on its own. Maybe from a digestion point of view also, it seems like it can be harder to kind of go for the straight up milk.
Yeah, well, lactose intolerance is a real thing. Most people of color, Asians, African Americans, Hispanic people are all lactose intolerant. It's just a very small percentage of Northern Europeans that have lactase, the enzyme that breaks down milk sugar. So it's very, very natural. We lose that sugar or that enzyme that breaks down lactose once we pass infancy. So it's completely natural. But, we do want something creamy and milky to drink. So it is very natural that many consumers prefer plant milks.
Yeah. Something that you touched on before that I think is interesting to talk about is the variety of plant-based products that are available on the market today. I know, in addition to the meat alternative, you had the vegan cheese brand Miyoko's Creamery for a long time. When it comes to kind of recipe developing and sharing recipes for making plant-based milk or yogurt or cheese or ice cream, like why would somebody be interested in making stuff at home when there are so many things that we can buy in the store?
Yeah, that's a really great question. One thing is I think you have to look at the ingredients. And I think more people who are, let's say, early adopters or flexitarians are looking for cleaner ingredients. And many of the products that are sold can be great and have clean ingredients, but then there are a whole bunch that have I would put in the ultra processed or processed category. A lot of vegan cheeses are just based on oils and starches and have no nutritive value. And so that might be where you might want to make something at home. But from more of a food justice standpoint, instead of just a nutrition standpoint, I am a strong believer in kitchen sovereignty and human beings, in ordinary people reclaiming their kitchens and being able to make things from scratch rather than having to rely on another corporation to provide the food for them. 70% of what we eat today in America comes from one of 10 multinational corporations. And, we've gotten to a point where we've forgotten how to make a lot of these foods. And while there's nothing wrong with buying products, I certainly do that as well too. It's also very liberating to be able to learn to make these products yourself, to be able to control what ingredients go into them, to learn the art or the technique behind things like age-old techniques like fermentation, and to really be able to reclaim the control of your kitchen.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think also there is something about being able to make something exactly to your own taste, whether you want to add in a different flavor or have a different kind of final texture. I think to be able to own something can be really empowering.
Yes, absolutely. I always think of whatever recipe I develop as a starting off point. It is not the absolute destination. So take my recipe for, let's say, a certain cheese, for example, Reggie goat cheese, and then do your own thing to it. Add your own seasonings, age it longer, age it less, grow some Penicillium candidum on it and make it fuzzy. I mean, like there's so many different things that you can do. My upcoming book, The Vegan Creamery, may be the culmination of decades of experimentation I've done. But it is also just the beginning of the evolution of what we can do with plant milks. I mean, dairy products have had thousands of years to develop amazing cheeses and ice creams and sour cream, all sorts of things. We're just beginning to uncover and discover what plant milks can do. So my goal in writing this book is that it's just a kickoff point for people. A diving board so that everyone can jump into the pool and really push that evolution further.
Yeah, I love that kind of point of talking about the history of cheese cultivation. And I have to say that The Vegan Creamery as a book is so impressive. You are encouraging people to, obtain their own vegan culture and inoculate their vegan cheeses and kind of doing all of these things. I'm curious, when you were developing the idea for this book, knowing that you've kind of released several already, like what did you want this book to kind of represent, and how did you go about thinking what recipes would be in it?
Yeah, in terms of the recipes, it really, oh God, if I were to rewrite the book today, I would probably have other recipes in it. And in fact, until the very last final edit, there's several rounds of edits, I was still writing to my editor and saying, oh my God, can I just swap out this recipe for this one? This one's even better. So, even in my repertoire, I feel like things are constantly evolving. One of the recipes that I added at the very last minute is a really easy ricotta recipe that's made out of a combination of watermelon seeds and cashews. And I discovered that making a combination milk from those two ingredients produced the perfect size curd for ricotta so that you could coagulate the milk and form these tiny little curds that when you drained it, the whey would drain away, and then you would get this beautiful, creamy, sweet, milky ricotta. And that was, I think, the last recipe I contributed right before my editor said, no more changes. This is it. And so for me, the recipes were always changing. And I also try to simplify them over time. I think my initial butter recipe came out in the Homemade Vegan Pantry in 2012 or 2015 actually. And it had, I don't know, a whole list of ingredients in it. And I found through experimentation for this book that I was able to narrow the list of ingredients for making your own plant-based butter down to 3
Wow.
without any emulsifier, which is, emulsifiers are in all plant butters or margarines, because that's the only way you can get a watery substance and an oil to combine. But I found that if you just change the order in which you add the ingredients, you could actually make a creamy spreadable butter with just 3 ingredients, and with salt or without salt. That's why I say 3. And so this is sort of the evolution of my thinking is, how do I simplify so that it's easier for people? At least for many of the recipes. I can't do that for everything. How do I make them as nutritious as possible? How do I not add a whole bunch of adjuncts like starches and oils and gums? I try to keep starches and oils to an absolute minimum, only add them if I absolutely have to. If the expression of the milk, of the plant milk, just doesn't cut it for whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to be kind of perfecting the craft. And while there are some really kind of approachable, beginner-friendly recipes, it's also really interesting to see these aged, mold-ripened cheeses that you have in the book. I've never used mold in my home kitchen before. Can you maybe demystify that or make that sound a little bit less scary for people? Or is it scary?
No, it's not scary at all. It's not scary, and it's not as hard as you think. I think if you remove that fear factor and just kind of go for it, and really just try to understand the science behind it. Molds require a certain amount of humidity. They require a certain temperature, and they have a certain tolerance to things like salt. And so you do have to really take care of the environment in order for your mold to grow successfully. But mold grows in your refrigerator all the time. I mean, who hasn't found a moldy loaf of bread, for example? That is Penicillium roqueforti. That's blue mold. That you could, inoculate cheese with, for example. Although there's different varieties, it's better to get it from a culture supplier so that you're getting a flavorful one instead of one with odd flavors. But once you just take the time to study and read the recipe really well, so you know what you're getting into, it's actually sort of a fun science project if you like that sort of thing, to see that blue mold grow, to see the bloomy rind, the white mold grow on a wheel of cheese that you've made. It can be quite fun.
Yeah, it does sound really kind of empowering to be able to make something like that I feel like most home cooks have probably never made blue cheese at home before.
I highly encourage it. My mind is always thinking about ingredients. So, I wouldn't start there if you've never ever embarked on a vegan cheese making experience. Probably a bloomy rind or a blue cheese would not be the place that you would start. Start with something really, really simple, something that you can make in a day. For example, the mozzarella, that's start to finish, just, an hour or so. Or the ricotta, and then move on to something that you ferment overnight, for example. And then once you're comfortable with that, move on. One of the primary differences in some of the techniques in the new book, The Vegan Creamery, as opposed to my first cheese book, Artisan Vegan Cheese, which came out in 2012, is that in the current book, we really are adopting true cheese making techniques of making the curds, separating it from the whey, pressing the curds to make a hard wheel of cheese, etc. Not every single cheese in the book is like that, but a lot of them are. And that is, I think, completely new. Most cheeses, even the ones that I was making out of cashews before, were really more like cashew spreads, where you sort of puree cashews with a low amount of water and then you go from there. So you're not really making curds. But I really wanted to find a way to do that, to sort of replicate that cheese making process, that time-honed process. And so I'm really excited to be able to offer this technique to cheesemakers around the world. And I'm hoping that they're going to be able to improve on my recipes.
You strike me as someone who always is experimenting and working on something. And I'm curious if there are any kinds of types of cheeses or other foods that you are still striving towards making a perfect plant-based recipe for.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, while I'm not trying to replicate dairy cheeses exactly, there is one cheese that I really, really miss, Gruyere. And I can replicate a soft Gruyere by the combination of using miso, white wine, and nutritional yeast. But I haven't been able to get that Gruyere texture, that sort of waxy, sort of flexible texture you get. I've been able to replicate that texture, but then not the flavor at the same time. I can get the flavor, but not the texture. So I am really working on how can I actually do that? How can I get those two? One cheese that I was really happy that I was able to add to this book is feta. And the only way I was able to get the feta was by actually studying how traditional feta was made. And traditional feta is made by once you coagulate and you press the curds, you have to salt the curds, heavily salt the curds, and then you let it air dry. And the salting draws the moisture out and transforms a soft cheese into a hard, crumbly cheese. And so I was able to do that. I was just shocked. And I was able to replicate that nice, crumbly, hard texture that you get in feta. So there's just so much more work to do. I'm sure that people will read some of these recipes and think, you know what, this is a good start. I think I can take it further. And I'm thrilled for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where vegan cheese goes. And I have a feeling you'll be able to figure out the perfect Gruyere at one point or another.
I certainly hope so.
To close today, I want to play a little rapid fire game with you. So I'm going to ask you some questions and you can just give me the first one that comes to mind.
Okay.
Favorite plant-based milk?
At this point, watermelon seed milk.
The one and only.
Mm-hmm.
What does the milk itself taste like? Does it have a flavor?
So if you don't add a little bit of maple syrup and a dash of salt to it, it does have a slightly grassy flavor. And it's very low in sugar, whereas dairy milk has lactose, and so it's slightly sweet. And watermelon seeds have very, very low sugar. So you do have to add just a little bit of sweetener to make it more palatable. But the mouthfeel is so milky that I absolutely love it.
Okay, your favorite plant-based cheese right now?
I would say my mozzarella.
Your go-to ice cream flavor?
Okay, I'm going to throw out two, vanilla thyme and amaretto rosemary.
Wow, those both sound really good. They're good together, I bet. Your go-to late-night snack?
Oh, spaghetti aglio e olio.
Very classic. Your favorite cookbook right now that isn't one of your own?
Well, I would have to say I have to go back to Julia Child's Mastering the Art of French Cooking because that's how I learned how to cook.
Yeah, it's such a classic. Okay, finally, a fictional food scene, like from a book or movie, something made up that you wish you could magically eat in real life.
Have you ever seen Tampopo? It's a Japanese movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, ramen Western. And even though there's nothing in it that's vegan, I just love ramen. So every time I watch that, to get a good laugh, I also get really hungry.
It's a great answer. I think if we're magically bringing the food to life, maybe we could make a vegan version of it for you.
Absolutely.
This has been so much fun, Miyoko. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbar. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.